Is this how you dry your dog? Are you brushing your dog like this? Does your dog hate brushing and avoid them at all costs? If so, you might be doing it wrong. Sometimes your dog's negative reaction to brushing can be easily fixed by creating a positive association with it. I have covered this in another video, which I'm going to put the link in the description box. However, a lot of the time it's actually due to either the quality of the brush or the techniques you are using. Using the wrong tools or the wrong techniques can cause pain and discomfort for your dog. So let's go over the 5 common mistakes and how to fix them. The first mistake people often make is not brushing while blow drying your dog. First, this is much more time consuming. Second, their coat won't turn out as shiny and fluffy, as this is arguably the best time to fluff them up. So what I want you to do is, as you dry your dog, use this slicker brush to brush very gently. Don't try to use too much force or pressure. This type of brush is great for double-coated dogs because it helps separate the hair and speed up drying. It also helps remove mats and tangles in the process. The second mistake is using a slicker brush without routed tips. When buying a slicker brush, make sure to get one with routed pins. A good rule of thumb is if you take the brush and brush your skin with it and it feels uncomfortable and scratches your skin, it's probably going to feel uncomfortable for your dog as well. Some dogs might not like slicker brush as much because it's not as gentle as other types of brushes, especially when you're not as experienced. And in that case, you can try using this pin brush. It's gentler and it helps create that fluffy look, although it's not great at removing tangles. But don't worry, we will take care of the tangles with another brush later on. The third common mistake is focusing on detangling while drying. I want you to keep in mind that our main goal during drying is to dry their fur, not to detangle them. Your dog's fur will naturally become less matted through the brushing and drying process. However, please don't use excessive force or try to pull through the tangles when the fur is still wet. It's painful and also more difficult. Once your dog has been about 80% dry, I usually like to switch to this brush to fluff them up even more if you haven't done so already. This brush is amazing for achieving that classic fluffy look for breeds like Pomeranians. After your dog has been fully dry, it's time to focus on detangling them. And this brush is hands down the best type of brush to detangle your dog. I start by spraying a little bit of this product to make the detangling process a little bit easier. Now let's get to the real business. The fourth common mistake that people often make is only detangling the top layer. And sadly, it doesn't work for double-coated breeds like Pomeranians. If you just barely brush the top of their coat, you're actually not detangling anything, and all of the mats are still there underneath all these flubs. So in order to properly detangle their mats, it's important for you to focus on working on one small area at a time. I usually like to start with the fur behind the ears, as it often gets matted, given how often you pet your dog by squashing their ears. So while parting and holding up the part of their coat that you are not brushing with one hand, gently run the brush down with the other hand, and as soon as you hit the mat, stop and mark it with your hand so you don't lose it. Now, the fifth common mistake that people often make is as soon as they find the mat, they go straight to the base of their dog's skin trying to detangle the mat all at once. Well, please don't do that because it's extremely painful for your dog. Instead, with my fingers still holding tightly to the mat, I gently run the brush through the top of the mat. So basically, I start with the portion of the mat furthest away from their skin. Walk through that part first, slowly and gently. Remember to keep holding the lower part of the matted fur while walking through the top part. It's going to help prevent their hair from getting pulled, so it's a lot more comfortable for your dog. We are not hitting the skin, we're not pulling their hair, we're just brushing the top part of their mat and loosening it one by one. And once the top of the mat is detangled, I lower my finger a little bit so I can walk my way through the lower parts of the mat and run the brush a little bit closer to the skin and repeat the steps above until I reach all the way down to the skin. Once the brush begins to glide through the coat easily, then it's time to move on to the next mat. Please note that sometimes the mat is just too severe to safely detangle it without causing a great amount of pain to your dog, and that's when you have no other option but to trim it away. Now let's move on to the other common matted areas like the belly and armpits. We use the same principles and start by pulling up the upper layers of their coat that we're not brushing yet with one hand, and then comb down the bottom of their belly. Once I detach a mat, I hold on to the portion of the mat closer to their skin while slowly walking through the top of the mat and gradually working my way to the root of the mat. With their butt, sometimes it's a bit tricky as Pomeranians do have a tendency to sit down while being brushed and groomed. groom. So the trick is to use one of your hands to support their lower belly and also prevent them from being able to sit down while trying your best to brush their bottom. It's going to be trickier with only one hand to work with. So please remember to be very gentle. The brushing techniques that I find most helpful when working with areas where we face the most resistance from our dog is fast, steady, but shallow and light strokes of brush. Look at the way I do it here. I brush really fast, but notice how I don't go all the way in. I just barely touch the top layer of their coat, and once the top layer is all detangled, meaning I can glide my brush easily without getting stopped in the middle, I gradually move a little bit closer to the skin and just keep repeating the same process until you can glide the brush all the way from the base of their skin without any mats. Also, please be very careful when brushing their butt, especially with female dog, as you might accidentally hurt their vulva if you run the comb down with too much force. So please make sure you have a clear view of their butt whenever you brush the areas around their private part to avoid any unfortunate incident. With their tail, you gotta be a little bit more careful, and if you're not careful when running the brush, it can end up getting stuck at the tip of their tail and it's gonna hurt a lot. So just be very gentle when running the brush through their tail, especially at the top part where it usually curves in. I usually like to use my finger to cover the tiny curvy tip of the tail to make sure it's well protected. Alright, so now that you have successfully detangled your dog, it's time for the special finishing touch. This technique that I'm going to talk about is called live brushing, and you do it with this pin brush. The pins of this brush are very long, so you can easily go through your Pomeranian's long double coat. You start by holding all of this hair up and running the brush down, and I'm going to make a line with my brush. And the basic idea is that if you can see the line of their skin after brushing each layer, you are doing it right. After that, just loosen up your hand and let another layer of their coat come down and repeat the same steps. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, please don't forget to click on the like and subscribe button to show us some support. Thank you so much for watching our video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!